the Human Resources Director here at Embassy Suites for about 12 and a half years.
Wow.
I've been at the property for just over 13. I was actually a product of a promotion. Okay. I started out as the administrative assistant here, assisting in the office, and had an opportunity pretty much immediately, figured out that the person I was working for in HR was going to be leaving. And at that point I decided either, okay, I can be scared to death because I just got this job and now the person that hired me is leaving, or I can learn as much as I can from that person, and then maybe I have a chance. And they took a big chance with me, to be honest. This was really my first HR experience, was a few months as the assistant, and then kind of jumped in head first. So everything I've learned on the job by making mistakes. But I really feel that I received the opportunity to do what I do now because I didn't just give 100%. You know, I gave 110%, and I tried to do more than just what I was told I had to do. And then they recognized that when I was able, you know, when the position came open, and, you know, I knew how to do payroll. That was pretty important, you know, to be able to do that. I had gone through a conversion on our payroll system, and, you know, just really showed that I could learn and I could contribute.
You could do it. And that's perfect for the students that we just talked about, because a lot of time, most of the jobs, you know, people are going to make their decisions based on what you're already doing. So if you're in a workplace setting already, that advancement, you're every day auditioning for that next job, whether you know it or not. So that's a perfect example of that. Tell us, looking at the applications that you get that come here to the Embassy Suites, what are the three most common mistakes that people make? And it's threefold: on the application and on the interview.
Okay. On the application, I would say not being thorough. I think what a lot of people do is say if they're applying for housekeeping, then if they had a job 5 years ago in housekeeping, they'll put that, and that's all.
Yeah.
Well, it's important to put your full scope of employment, because that's what we look for. We look for a length of time, you know, at your previous employers. Have you had gaps of employment? And you've created that because you've left information out. You know, I get phone calls all the time and say, why aren't you considering me? And I'll say, well, these are the reasons. So, but I've had other jobs.
You didn't know it.
But all we can look at is what you've provided us. As employers, you can't call everyone and say, okay, is this it? You know, have you done more? You know, we don't have the opportunity to do that. So what they give us on an application is it, typically.
Good. And what about once you screen the applications and you bring someone in, they make it past that paper review, and then you bring them into the office and let's do the interviews. What are the most common mistakes people make in the actual face-to-face interview?
Well, I think it's maybe not a mistake that they make during the process, but I think one of the important parts is standing out. And simply dressing nice for an interview is, for us, is probably a surprise, but that is a way to stand out. Just to present yourself well. So I think a lot of people don't come. I think a good rule of thumb is to come like you're dressed to come to work. Not like you're dressed to go out to a club or to mow your grass, but dressed like you would be dressed if you were going to come to work. And it's an impression. If somebody doesn't come nicely dressed, then how do you think they're going to come to work?
That's right.
You know,
that first impression. You're getting back to that.
even before you start the interview, you know, that's one thing that I feel is really important. Being on time. A lot of people make that mistake. You know, I don't turn people away when they're late, but I know a lot of people do. You know, but you know, so those are even before we get to speaking. But one thing that I really like to see in an interview, I kind of end my interview with, do you have any questions?
Right.
You've got to have questions. There, I know I can't tell you everything there is to know about the job, and by asking questions, it shows you're interested. And if you've done a great job, you've answered everything. Well, probably not. There's probably something that's come up that I've told you about the job or whatever that you can ask something about. Make up something. If I did answer all your questions, show your interest by adding something to it.
Please, some of the things you're saying are exactly what that we stress in our program. But I do think it's so important to hear that from the employers. Mm-hmm. We're not the hiring officials, so for them to hear it coming from you,
well, and it doesn't do me any good for you to try to tell me I did a good job.
Yeah.
I want to see from you that you have an interest.
Mm-hmm. You're interested in the job.
And there's no way, if you've never done it before, whether you've done hotels or not, I'm not going to tell you everything about the job you need to know. Mm-hmm. So I'm kind of expecting that. Or if I have covered most everything, think of something. It
you
shows
want to know
interest.
Something. Interest in the position, that's a good one.
My concern of people that are unemployed right now is they have in their mind the ideal job. And we're not in that economy right now. We have a lot of jobs open, and we're having such a hard time filling those because, well, I don't know why.
Yeah.
From what I've experienced out and about, it's, I want this job.
That's not the job I want.
And what you have, and I think in this economy, you need to get in the front door. Mm-hmm. Get yourself in. I mean, I'm an example of that. That wasn't what I intended to do when I started here. But, get your feet wet. Get in the door. Show them what you can do. Then maybe that opportunity will come to you. Mm-hmm. We just promoted someone to our restaurant manager position that's our night auditor right now. It happens. You just have to be patient and not think that's what you're getting when you walk in the door. Mm-hmm.
Don't come in expecting to start at the top.
Yes, I think at this point people just need to be a little bit more open-minded, see the potential, and maybe not the immediate job they would be doing. I guess would be kind of a recommendation. I don't know that was your question.
That's exactly it.
I do have one additional question. As far as criminal background, what is the policy on that? Because there may be some students that have...
We do not do drug screens or background checks.
Okay.
Currently.
That's good to know. Okay.
Yes.
Because we do have some students who have background issues.
Yeah.
Some of them not criminal, felonies that are related to
hot checks.
Minor shoplifting when they were 17.
Okay.
Well, and some of it does depend. If we have somebody that, was, convicted of some type of theft, well, we're not going to let them have access to the guest rooms. That's a security issue for us and a liability issue. So it kind of depends on what it is. Hot checks, that kind of thing is,
Tell us about more, say if someone's on the job, because one of the things we work with in our program is not only helping students find employment, but it's what you talked about already, retaining employment. Mm-hmm. And that's our goal, is to try and keep students employed. Mm-hmm. And what are some of the things, I guess if you look at some of the most common reasons that employees get terminated, be it behavioral or, falsifying an application, that you've experienced in your HR?
I would say probably the most common and unfortunate is tardy in attendance.
Wow. And
that's why I said, it's important to be honest from the beginning. And if your situation changes, where say, you lost your transportation and you're having a really hard time getting to work, say that. Go to your manager, say, I lost my vehicle, it's in the shop, it'll be out, in a couple of weeks, I'm having problems, paying to get it out. Just be honest and share. It's, as an employer, it doesn't do us any good to let somebody go. the majority of the time. You know, so if we can retain people, we want to do that.
Yes,
Most of the time, it's not performance; it's policies, and a lot of it's simple policies that probably could have been avoided.
What about issues around just how you interact with your coworkers in the workplace?
We don't have a whole lot of problems with that. We have in 13 years. I've seen a lot, but we don't really have a problem with that. I think our operation is a little bit different than a lot of places. We don't work all together. There's, you know, we have over 100 employees, but we're not all working in some confined area. You know, so I think that helps. You know, and I think it's a very positive attitude. I mean, a positive atmosphere as well. So I think that helps with that.
Okay. Last question, unless you guys think of something else. Just from, if you were to give some words of advice, just generic words to any applicant, say even if they weren't applying here to the embassy, for new applicants that were trying to enter the workforce, what would those words be?
I would say from the start, when you go in to inquire about a job, be prepared to interview. Don't come in dressed as though you're ready to interview. That shows that you're really trying to find a job, to me. And
even when you're coming to pick up the application?
Absolutely. Yes. That would be the very first thing, because you stand out. If somebody comes in, you know, dressed, you know, in a jacket or a shirt and tie or whatever, and you know they're inquiring, you know, I'm much more likely to say, you know, what's your name, and write that name down and go back and look for that person later, because they show this is a job for them. Trying to find a job should be viewed as a job.